Hello everyone and welcome to this ASQ Google Plus Hangout. My name is Dave Salata. I am the Social Responsibility Program Manager for ASQ, and it is my distinct pleasure to function as host and quasi-moderator for this discussion. Today's topic is on integrating social responsibility with business strategy. We are going to be joined here in a moment by a very distinguished and highly involved group of volunteers that helped us create a new publication around which today's discussion will center, and that is Integrating Social Responsibility into Business Strategy, a Guide for Quality Professionals. This is a new publication of ASQ's. It is open access, which means it's free, not just to ASQ members, but to everyone. If you're watching this through the Google Plus event page of ASQ, we're going to be sharing with you a sneak peek of that guide. We've made it available on ASQ's SR microsite, which is called thesro.org, thesro.org. Hopefully you'll see a link on the event page below in a comment that's been inserted there. That will take you to a PDF version of the guide. In a few days, ASQ is going to be releasing a more interactive version of that guide using Flipbook software, and that's going to allow you to use the guide as a ongoing workbook. And we will be communicating that out when that's available. But in the meantime, please take a look at the PDF version of it and let us know what you think. So in addition to that, before I introduce our panel, I wanted to get a few housekeeping items out of the way. So in addition to making the guide available, we also wanted to let you know that if you have any questions during today's discussion, you can add that onto the event page. Or if you are watching this through YouTube after we have broadcasted, if you have any questions, you can add those in the comments section of the video. And we'll be sure to monitor that and respond as quickly as possible to any questions that you might have on this topic. Next, if you have any interest in staying connected and better engaging on this topic, whether it's integrating social responsibility or more broadly the topic of social responsibility, please visit our website. Again, that's thesro.org. Where you can find all information that ASQ has developed around the connections between quality and social responsibility, and specifically how quality can really function as the methodology that can advance the ideology of social responsibility. You'll find case studies. You'll be able to join an SR community where you can share effective practices with others that are doing similar work, and then of course you can follow us on social media. You can get information both from the SRO social media account, which is connected on our website, or through the ASQ social media accounts, which is probably how you heard about this hangout. So, with that being said, I did want to provide a little bit of a framework for thinking about this concept or this topic of integrating social responsibility and really what that means. So when we talk about integrating social responsibility, what we're referring to is trying to make sure that social responsibility and the social and environmental impact of business activities and business decisions are given consideration, both at a leadership level with the integration of business strategy, but then also through day-to-day operations. So that's what we're getting at here. When you look at the guide, we include 10 good reasons for why you should start integrating social responsibility, because it's one thing to know what it is, it's another thing to have motivation to really try to actually go about aggressively integrating social responsibility. In the guide, in the opening section, we include 10 very succinct but very poignant facts regarding why you should integrate social responsibility. And it comes from a number of reasons, mainly because your stakeholders, employees, customers, those in the communities in which you do business are increasingly paying attention to the social and environmental impact of businesses and want business leaders to do the same. So that's a little bit of a framework for today's discussion. Now again, it is my distinct privilege to introduce our panel. I will do so in alphabetical order. First, with us, we have Greg Allen. Greg is a scientist at the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. Greg, welcome.
Thank you.
Next, we have Holly Duckworth. Holly is Vice President of Continuous Improvement at Kaiser Aluminum. Holly, welcome.
Hi.
And finally, we have Michael Gapinski. Michael is the Quality Manager for Fiskars Corporation. Mike, how you doing?
Hey, good to be here. I'm great, thanks.
Greg, Holly, and Mike served as an advisory team for creating this guide on integrating social responsibility. They come with a particular passion for the topic and recognizing the significant benefits that quality can bring to the social responsibility space. So with that being said, we're going to get going on our conversation, and hopefully I will be talking less and the experts will be talking more. So I just wanted to warm up with a basic question, and that is, what does integrated social responsibility mean to you, and why is it important? I provided a little bit of context to that question, but I think it's a very deeply personal idea of what it exactly means, because there's not one necessary definition of integrated social responsibility. And then specifically, why is it important to you is, of course, a very individual and personal question. So we'll go alphabetical order. So Greg, do you mind kicking us off?
Yeah, sure, Dave. Thanks, and thanks for the great lead-in. So following on some of your points, I would agree that integrated social responsibility occurs when the organization includes it in its strategy development and strategy execution as a core principle. In the guide, we refer to the work of two thought leaders in this area, and that's Porter and Kramer, and some of the journal articles that they've published and some of their work. And they coined a term, shared value. And I think it's a very important term and really has a lot to say about how integration can be done and how it can be adopted in a way that essentially is saying that the organization is going to look for those strategic benefits for itself while it also looks for shared value with stakeholders. And integration will happen when the organizational leaders believe that as a core principle in its strategy development and execution, then that there can be those shared values, that there can be value that goes to the bottom line for the organization, but also benefits for stakeholders. And stakeholders we use as a broad term to include employees, shareholders, customers, investors, and integrated social responsibility occurs when the organization has a belief that that shared value can exist, and therefore they carry it all the way through the development and execution of strategy. So it's not an afterthought, it's not a tack-on, it's something that becomes a core principle that's worked all the way through strategy development and execution. So that's what integrated social responsibility means to me.
Okay. Very good, thank you. Holly, how about you?
Yeah, I have to pull back on the fact that it's incredibly important that we're talking about integrated social responsibility at ASQ. And I go back to the olden days when we used to inspect quality in after the product was built. And back in the 70s and 80s, we realized that we needed this thing called TQM, Total Quality Management. We needed to integrate quality into everything we do, and that was really the only way to achieve quality. And so just exactly how the quality movement happened is how the social responsibility movement is happening. And for the last 10 or 20 years, we've come forward with CSR, corporate social responsibility, and sustainable development, and we have corporate affairs directors and public relations people talking about sustainability and social responsibility. And now, just as the quality movement found itself at the juncture of needing to integrate quality into everything that's done in the organization, the social responsibility movement is recognizing that the same thing needs to happen. And a focus on social responsibility needs to be integrated into all of the activities of the organization. So that's what it means to me.
Mike, how about you?
Well, springboarding off of what Greg and Holly said, absolutely, integration is fundamentally when something becomes a part of what you, not just what you do, but how you think day to day. And to me, just mirroring what Greg said, when it becomes part of your strategic thinking and your tactical execution, your day-to-day activities, without even thinking, you know, not saying, like Greg said, it's not something that we just append on. It's how we do what we do. It isn't just something that we do in addition. So to me, integration is making it part of the culture, making it part of not just what you do, but how you think. And so it's kind of like physical fitness and good health, I would say, that that your decisions that you make throughout the day relative to, well, whether you're going to take the stairs or the elevator, or whether you're going to have the cheeseburger or the salad, something like that, you don't have to think about which of those choices you're going to make if you've integrated good health and well-being into what you do and how you do it and how you think. Similarly with social responsibility, when it becomes not just, oh, and now we have to answer the question from the social responsibility perspective, or how would the social responsibility champion in our organization look to us to make this particular decision. It just becomes part of our DNA. From the cultural perspective at the company, as well as the personal perspective. And to me, why social responsibility is so important is, you know, sustainability, social responsibility, sustainable development of products and services, all of those are elements of the overall social responsibility movement. And all of those things ultimately affect, as many of us have heard, people, planet, and profit. And since I live on the planet, it affects me. And so from a very personal perspective, for myself, my children, my grandchildren, I not only want the planet to be able to continue to provide for us what we need it to, but I want our communities to be benefiting from what we do in a business perspective, as well as the individuals working at those communities. That's a profit piece of it. And so on a personal basis, for me, it's important to integrate social responsibility into how a business does what they do, because if we don't integrate it, then it becomes what Greg was alluding to, I think, an add-on. And as a result, it becomes something that, as easily as it was added on, it can be taken away. It can be dropped. And without that integration, it becomes a fad of the month or a program of the month or something like that, that ultimately is not going to provide the benefits to, again, communities and the planet and business organizations that social responsibility could.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. Great perspectives all the way across the board. So if social responsibility is so important, if we see that it adds and creates value for, as Mike had outlined, the triple bottom line of people, planet, and profit, what are some of the greatest challenges then? Why aren't more organizations doing this? Why hasn't this become commonplace to date? So I'd love to get the panel's thoughts on that, and perhaps we'll go in reverse alphabetical order now, and we'll bounce things right back to Michael.
Sure. So two of the greatest challenges that I see, having worked for about a half a dozen different companies, most of which have not embraced even fundamental quality management system philosophy in how they run their business, is obtaining that top-level leadership commitment. Again, having worked at a number of companies where top leaders rarely understood the type of value that a quality organization or function could bring to and does bring to the organization in the way of ensuring that products and services are designed and delivered to more than satisfy the customer, to reducing risk and reducing costs. Not only do they not understand that, how the organization, or how quality, I should say, brings those benefits to the organization, they don't necessarily understand why it's important. They understand when things go bad why quality is important, and quality is often called upon to deal with the particular issue that might have surfaced, but quite often top leaders don't necessarily see all the, again, risk reduction and cost reduction activities and value that quality brings. So much more so, I think, for social responsibility, which is in more of a fledgling position, if you would, than quality is as a whole. ASQ is an organization that will soon celebrate their 70th anniversary. That tells us how long quality has been a part of mainstream manufacturing activity and philosophy. However, social responsibility is relatively new, and as such, the commitment even to social responsibility is what I see as the biggest challenge. The second biggest challenge, I think, is once, if you will, top leadership drinks the Kool-Aid and really understands that social responsibility is here to stay. It's something that is important to the organization's stakeholders, and just the ability of the organization to be able to do what it does a generation from now. It'll be a challenge to drive that understanding and perspective down to every level within the organization. And we all know that at every single level within an organization, people have their priorities. They have their day-to-day activities, which consume probably more than 100% of their bandwidth that they bring to the table every day. And so for them to understand that social responsibility is not just something additional that they will need to do as they do their quote-unquote normal work, it'll be important for them to understand that it's how they do what they do. And so unless that mindset is adopted all the way through the organization, from the top all the way down to the lowest level, it will be a challenge, I think, for organizations to really embrace SR the way it it should be for the overall benefit of, again, people, planet, profit, but also to do so in a way that that positions the organization to be able to satisfy all their key stakeholders' needs in a way that that really will put them at the top of their stakeholders' minds. And I see that primarily education is the is the way in which we are going to be able to deal with those challenges, both at the top level leadership, as well as throughout the organization. And there are obviously different strategies for communicating and educating at the different levels. But I see that primarily the lack of knowledge is going to be, or is the biggest challenge, and education and a concerted educational effort following the path that we identified in the integration guide is probably going to be the thing that we are going to rely on most and be most effective as we try to integrate social responsibility into our organizations.
Excellent, thank you. Holly, what are your thoughts on the topic?
Yeah, I think that Michael hit the nail on the head there, that one of the biggest issues is really an understanding, awareness, and just the knowledge of what to do. And I think that sometimes there's this misperception that we have to eat the elephant all at once, and really we can take this in bite-sized pieces, and sometimes we don't act. The task is so daunting and so overwhelming. And I think the integration guide is really going to help there, because in the very back of the guide we have different things, actionable things that different people across the organization can do, that can step up and do tomorrow. You know, we have actions that the quality manager can take, actions that the operations manager can take, actions that the HR manager and the administrative folks can take, bite-sized pieces, doable things outlined that can help an organization move from here to there, and not have to think about this as a huge, grandiose, change the world, boil the ocean kind of a daunting task, but really start making those changes day by day at every level, as Mike said, every level and every role within the organization. And the back end of this integration guide is really going to help people.
Excellent. Thank you. Greg?
Yes, okay, so with regard to challenges, I have 4 of them. First of all, as Mike was discussing, the biggest challenge is leadership commitment, a true, sincere commitment by leadership to embrace this idea of managing to the triple bottom line of environmental, social, and financial outcomes, and that there can be the shared value that I mentioned earlier, which is outcomes of this sort of thinking and efforts along these lines that translate to the financial bottom line, as well as to the benefit of stakeholders. And I think this is changing. If you look at the results surveys of leaders of private sector organizations, for example, we're seeing that a lot of them are indicating that this is emerging as a business imperative, and that many of them believe that this is something that needs to be addressed, but maybe it is new enough to some organizations, at least, that the challenge is the integration that we're today and the implementation of it. But I think it's becoming clear across the private sector that in so many cases being mindful of these issues translates to things like increased brand value and increased market share. that it is becoming an imperative, and it's going to be a situation for company leaders to understand that if they're not performing in this area, their competitors are, and they're accruing a lot of benefits as a result. So hopefully we'll see change here, but as we know as quality professionals, it really needs to start at the top when we're thinking about improving performance along these lines. So that's my number one challenge. Number two is with integration in mind, to push this way of thinking through the business processes and the business model that an organization might follow, and to think of this in terms of, say, a manufacturing sector where there is design of the product, there's production, there's service to the customer after it's distributed, and then there might be some thinking on the disposal or the end of life of the product. Along each of the steps in the value chain, there needs to be consideration of these environmental and social issues, and so it's a challenge to implement across the business processes. And so in design, we're asking, are we using sustainable raw materials? In production, are we being as efficient and lean as we can be? In service, are we thinking of the well-being of our customers and the people consuming our products? And then at end of life, do we have some way to assist with responsible disposal of the product? And those are big challenges to do things differently. So that's my second challenge. Third, it has to do with performance and performance measuring and performance tracking. So if we're going to really integrate as a core principle in our strategy development and execution, there ought to be some performance criteria and metrics that go along with it, and developing those and implementing those is also a challenge. For one thing, the question of whether organizational leaders and managers are accept performance evaluation to include things like the consideration of environmental and social outcomes. So those can be pretty big changes on the performance measurement area, and what we're talking about is adding to the bottom line performance with regard to environmental and social outcomes. That's a pretty big change for some folks. And speaking of change, that's my fourth. Just generally speaking, this is a change management challenge, and it turns out that quality professionals are typically very skilled and experienced in that area, and with regard to that challenge of leading change, there's a lot that we can bring to the table. And Dave, maybe that's a segue to the next question, where I think we're going to talk about how quality professionals can help.
Yes, we absolutely are, and thank you for everyone for mapping out some of those major challenges. So if we know what we want to accomplish and we know the challenges that might prevent us from accomplishing it, then the next step is what are the tools, resources, and skills that one needs to kind of compile in order to address some of those challenges and advance what we're looking to accomplish. But before we do that, I think that our lead author may have joined us. Sonny, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Crystal clear. I'm glad you're able to join us. For those watching, Francis J. Sonny Maher is the lead author of our integration guide. He was experiencing some technical issues earlier this morning, but he has been able to join us now. Sonny, welcome.
Thank you very much. Very much appreciate the opportunity. Sorry for my snafus. I had a computer that went down on me, and so good to be here anyway.
Excellent, excellent. Just so you can catch up, we've just finished discussing some of the greatest challenges in integrating integrating social responsibility in most organizations. Do you have any comments on that that particular topic?
Okay.
Do you have any thoughts on those challenges, Sonny, before we move forward to the next question?
Sure. To me, I think a challenge that's probably been pointed out in the past is that when you ask people, why to integrate social responsibility into their organisation, that they say why back to you, and it's, what's the bottom line benefit from us doing that? What are the risks? That diverts a lot of time from us, and so, why should we do it? So really, I think it's getting top management of the organisation convinced that this is something that's important to do. This is something that will help them manage risk and manage opportunities much more comprehensively. I think that's a key challenge. And then I think a second one, and others may have covered a lot of this territory, is that just the time it takes to consider this and get it integrated, get social responsibility integrated, seems initially to be a diversion from the core activities as a business. It's not, but that's what it may seem initially.
Excellent, thank you. All right, so then moving forward, the next question that we have prepared is focused specifically for Greg, Holly, and Michael, and that is, as quality professionals, from your perspective, how can quality and quality professionals specifically help address some of these challenges? Now, some of that was alluded to in response to the previous question, but I think it would be interesting, especially for viewers, to better understand how quality professionals can help carve out a role in the SR sustainability space, and then what are some of those key talking points when it comes to engaging with the senior leadership on this topic. So we'll reverse order again. We'll go in alphabetical order, and I'll bounce things over to Greg for his thoughts on that.
Yeah, so there's all kinds of ways that quality professionals are well positioned to help with this integration of social responsibility. And I think of it from a broader perspective, which is about leading change and developing management systems, as well as a more specific level. And I want to just mention now that the ISO 26000 document is a good companion piece to be aware of in addition to our integration guide. And the two things are speaking to each other very well. And if you're looking for a way to operationalize social responsibility, ISO 26000 is another great resource to have. And if you look down the elements of social responsibility that 26000 refers to, there are a few that jump off the page as being very much oriented quality practice. One of them is consumer well-being. And so in there we're talking about how, for example, products are designed with the consumer's well-being in mind. And as far as quality professionals tend to be part of, or have the ability to be part of, the design and production of products, we then have a chance to be asking questions and challenging the organization to make sure that products are designed in a way that they can be efficiently manufactured and that they're going to be safe and reliable, that they're going to meet customer specifications, which is one of the core principles of quality, in a way that really considers the well-being of consumers and customers. Another example out of 26000 is efficiency and the environmental component of social responsibility. And there, things like Lean and Six Sigma are good tools to be used in making sure that we're creating our products in the most environmentally efficient way and with the lowest rate of off-spec waste, for example. So those are two core elements of social responsibility that quality professionals are already working in. And that's why in a few places, including a blog that we're going to be issuing soon related to the guide, we say that quality is socially responsible. We're not saying that it is in itself the entirety of social responsibility. We're just saying that activities related to quality are socially responsible activities. And so those are real specific areas where quality professionals can help with these challenges. And then broadly speaking, leading change and systems of management. So we know from ISO 9001, maybe ISO 14001, that using systematic approaches to implementing actions to improve performance is highly effective. And that really gives a great platform for leading the change that we're talking about here with regard to integrating social responsibility. So those are some specific examples and some broader examples, and presents great opportunity for quality professionals in their careers.
Excellent. Thank you, Greg. Holly?
Yeah, just Greg mentioned there's several quality tools in the toolkit that can be applied to social responsibility. You know, when it comes to quality professionals, we're engaged all day, every day in doing things right, and social responsibility takes that and the next step into doing the right things. So when we talk about quality professionals engaged in social responsibility, we're talking about people that are focused on not only doing things right, but doing the right things. In addition to the integration guide and, as Greg mentioned, ISO 26000, I'd encourage quality professionals to familiarize themselves with a third body of reference, and that is the Global Reporting Initiative, GRI. This thing we call social responsibility is very measurable. This isn't a fluffy concept or some sort of pie-in-the-sky ideal. There are very measurable outcomes that can tell you and your organization if you're being socially responsible or not. And so I'd advise the quality professional to go familiarize themselves with GRI and begin to embed some of the metrics, the many metrics that GRI, the Global Reporting Initiative, uses to measure sustainability, and begin to embed those in their quality management system. Begin to embed these sustainability metrics into the performance metrics of the quality management system. And I think that's a near-term action that the quality professional can do as well.
Excellent. Thank you. Michael?
Mm-hmm. Great points by both Greg and Holly, and I agree 100%. Ultimately, like I mentioned before, and I think everybody commented on too, lack of knowledge or need for education at all levels or throughout all levels of an organization will be critical to gaining the type of first understanding of and then commitment to long-term social responsibility initiatives. I believe that in order for that education to take place, that edification to take place, and if we are the ones who are proselytizing that initiative or that philosophy, it's incumbent upon us to first become very well versed. And like Holly just said, GRI is a great place to go. Greg mentioned ISO 26000. Absolutely. My first comment to quality professionals, in order to add to what they already know and how to do so well, like Greg mentioned, we've got so much knowledge, skill, and experience in the areas of Lean and Six Sigma and product design, improvement of all types. we need now to increase our own knowledge as quality professionals in the areas of social responsibility. Again, GRI, ISO 26000, classes at a university, networking with others, with other local organizations to begin to share best practices, etc. I believe that that's a key piece of what we need to be able to do, or what we need to do, in order ultimately to drive SR integration well into the organization that in the way that we really want to. As far as carving out a role in this sustainability space, I would suggest that quality professionals even go beyond their own four walls of their company. Reach out to the community, other governmental organizations or social advocacy groups, because they are perhaps even more well-tuned into the two elements of sustainability and social responsibility, the people side and the planet side, more so perhaps out of the chute than companies are. And so there's, I think, a lot of opportunity for us to engage in our own communities and bring that engagement and some of that thought into our own companies in order to more effectively drive integration throughout. And then finally, some of the key talking points, in my mind, the two main talking points are that first and foremost, the pressure is built on investors, the community at large, for organizations of all types to take social responsibility seriously. It's one thing to focus on profit, if you will, and that is a primary goal of most organizations, but to do so without acknowledging either the negative effect on the planet or the community that organizations might have, but more so to turn that around and make it a positive effect, a positive impact. Those are the things that are coming to organizations, again, of all types, from their key stakeholders, and really driving the focus or the need to embrace social responsibility, and therefore to integrate it effectively into your organization. As well, though, looking at it from the competitive side, organizations face risks of many kinds, not just as far as resources and available employees go, but also from their competition. Embracing and integrating social responsibility is a fantastic way to eliminate some of those risks that are definitely present from both the use of our limited resources, but as well from our competitors who may be a step or two ahead of us as far as acknowledging and responding to those social responsibility concerns. But ultimately will position us to be able to sustain the types of growth and community engagement long term that we want to. So understanding those risks and embracing those opportunities and making the most of them, I think, are key talking points as well that will help ultimately bring top leadership and the rest of the organization around to understand that SR is something that they really need to drive into their culture and how they do what they do.
Excellent. Thank you. Turning things over to Sonny for a slightly different perspective, given the fact that you know a great deal about quality, but you are not a quality manager or a quality director. Can you bring a higher level perspective on kind of the specific quality tools and quality-based approaches that you think would help facilitate change within organizations on the SR front?
Sure, I'd be glad to. Thanks, Dave. I think one of them has already been introduced by Greg, and this is the idea of Lean and Six Sigma, these tools that quality professionals know well, that I think have contributed a lot in the past in respect of avoiding waste, which is a very important part of the environmental dimension of social responsibility. So I think we can reintroduce that based on what Greg said, and I think indicate that quality people know this stuff well. Now you can extend the idea of Six Sigma and perhaps inject things like life cycle analysis into product design, which quality people are intimately involved in, as a complement to truly understanding the impacts from a social, economic and environmental point of view of new products and indeed new services. So I think that's a little bit of ground we've covered, but I just wanted to embroider over that a little bit. I think that the one I would like to emphasize most of all is the management system, and people who are familiar with the guide know that I've emphasized the importance of the management system in integrating social responsibility. And I think we'll agree that management systems really evolved out of way back in the early 90s, late 80s, as a formal mechanism of putting in place rituals and practices that embedded quality principles within an organization. So we got things like ISO 9001, we got TS and other modern instruments or management systems of getting things done. And so I would like to emphasize the management system. And why do I do that? The management system, I think, is worth emphasizing here as an integrator because it is the thing that embeds rituals. I mean, management systems basically require that if you hold meetings about topics such as quality, then certain inputs and outputs are required. Well, it's the same discipline that applies nicely to social responsibility. If you can't, if you don't hold meetings or you can't stay in conformance unless, for example, you integrated certain topics to the conversation, that's a nice mechanism for integrating social responsibility. Likewise, the procedures, the work instructions, and other rituals and other activities that are associated with a management system make sure that social responsibility, if it's a part of your management system, gets equal consideration in day-to-day activities rather than being an afterthought. So I think the management system for me is really key. And quality people just know management systems so well. They've led these, they've implemented them, and so I think they're uniquely placed. I think a couple of other things that are worth mentioning is that the quality individuals constantly go back to the mantra of customer satisfaction. And I think that's a great mantra to go back to when you're thinking about what we're doing here, why we're producing a product, how we produce a product. And I think perhaps that could be expanded to more of a stakeholder satisfaction concept as a way of integrating social responsibility. Certainly processes like Kaiser processes, these continual improvement concepts, standard quality toolkit material, very nicely suited to social responsibility. And then I would also add that in social responsibility, it's important, like other endeavors, to actually measure things and to measure them in a disciplined way so you can, in an unbiased way, say that you are actually improving on a social and economic and environmental footprint from an environmental viewpoint. And quality people just know this stuff so well, the discipline of statistics and accurate and unbiased measurement. So they're the ones that I would highlight that I think that the quality movement brings to social responsibility, Dave, and others.
Dave, are you still with us?
I think Dave's calling back in, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, everyone.
Hello again.
All right, for whatever reason, I got bounced there. So we've got about 10 minutes left in the hour. So I wanted to ensure that everyone got an opportunity to provide us with some final closing comments. So if everyone could take about 60, 90 seconds tops to provide us with some final thoughts on the topic of integrating social responsibility and have some next steps or some sort of a challenge to those that are watching this. Holly, you've been kind of stuck in the middle of our volley back and forth, so I want to provide you with an opportunity to go first.
Okay, sure. I'm really excited about the launch of this integration guide and appreciate all of my fellow cohorts on the panel here today and all the help that they provided in building this guide. And I think what this guide's going to do, and having been a quality professional for all of my career, this is really going to add value. If the quality professional picks up this integration guide and begins acting on it, their value in the organization is going to escalate. The organization is going to begin to see them as problem solvers of this very real problem that we face in the world today with social responsibility. Through all of the reasons why social responsibility is a field that needs tackling right now. And many customers, many investors, many stakeholders are demanding that organizations step up to the plate with social responsibility. The risks are just too great when irresponsible behavior happens in an organization. As we've seen in the headlines, we see it in the headlines month after month, organizations are basically taken down because of irresponsible behavior, the risks associated with that. I think if the quality professionals pick up this challenge and use this integration guide for the benefit of all of the stakeholders of the organization and for the benefit of the quality professional, we're going to begin to see a new wave, a new acceleration in the social responsibility movement with the scientific rigor and the focus on strategy and management systems that the quality professional brings are exactly what is needed today in the social responsibility movement. So I'm excited. I'm thrilled that this integration guide is soon going to help leverage these professionals in this regard.
Excellent. Thank you. Greg, your final thoughts?
Well, today, Dave, we've talked about some real specific ways that quality professionals are already practicing social responsibility and how they can continue to do so through things like lean, low off-spec waste, life cycle assessment management systems. We've also talked about some other areas where the quality professionals who are so versed in leading change can be helpful. Things like developing performance measures to show this integration of social responsibility as a core business element. And also was real glad to hear Holly's thinking on global reporting initiative, because communications is really key. So as quality professionals help to lead this change, finding partners in their organizations that can help communicate the benefits to the triple bottom line is an important element of sustaining social responsibility in an organization. So I thought that was a great add to the discussion. And generally speaking, yes, this is something to smile about, because quality, as we know it, is a socially responsible activity, and this is a great opportunity for quality professionals to enhance their careers, make a contribution both inside and outside their organizations, and leave the world a little better place than they found it, perhaps. So lots of good reasons for the quality field to embrace this, and the integration guide and other products that ASQ has developed or will develop are going to be very helpful to make this happen. So those are my closing thoughts.
Thank you very much. Michael, final thoughts?
Sure. I think if you ask 10 people what their definition of social responsibility is, you'd get 10 different answers. My thought is that regardless of what the answer is, I think we all understand that social responsibility is important and it's here to stay. And from my perspective, being in the quality profession for 30 plus years, there's no one in an organization who is more already integrated into a lot of the, like Sonny said, management systems, like Greg said, the use of tools, Lean Six Sigma, etc. There's no one more integrated, more knowledgeable, no one more in a position to be able to be the advocate for and the champion of social responsibility in the organization. And I would encourage every quality professional, like Greg said, to view this not as an add-on, but as an area that they can really enhance their position professionally and within an organization by becoming that champion, becoming that knowledge holder, and do so by first getting a copy of the integration guide and really becoming familiar with it, begin to execute it, continue to increase your education through understanding what GRI is all about, understanding the elements of ISO 26000, and simply becoming that advocate for social responsibility. I think the opportunity is ours. I think we should take it.
Excellent, thank you. And then finally, Sonny, 1 minute wrap up. What are your final thoughts?
Yeah, just a couple of things. I would just say to the quality professional, talk to others that have been gotten involved in social responsibility. It's a way of enriching a career and just doing a lot of good and actually making your business function better. I think the evidence is that people who immerse themselves in this actually find a lot more value than they originally thought. And so that's one thought. I would add briefly to the discussion of the Global Reporting Initiative, and that's a wonderful instrument that I've had quite a lot of involvement with. But I would add to that instruments like the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board, where standards and measures of sustainability are being developed and have been developed specifically for the accountants in your organization. So that's another thought. The other thought, I think, from the quality and broadly beyond quality is social responsibility can really bring, I think, a terrific value chain understanding of where an organization sits in its world. So I think that there are just concomitant value in thinking much more broadly. Social responsibility helps to force, I think, some of that thinking to become broader. And I think it's just all it'll do will enhance the organization and the quality professional's profile within their organization. There's some final thoughts, Dave and others.
Thank you. All right, so I want to thank everyone on the panel, both for this very informative discussion and your participation in this hangout, as well as the countless hours that you have spent working on this integration guide. Especially Greg, Holly, and Michael. Those were volunteer hours. You did it out of your own goodwill and recognizing the value of this work. So thank you sincerely for that. Beyond that, just some final housekeeping items. If you haven't yet had an opportunity to bounce over to our SR website, you'll be able to find a copy of the integration guide there. So that is thesro.org. And again, you should be able to see that link on the event page if you're watching this on Google+. And if you're watching a recording of this on YouTube, we'll make sure to include a direct link to the guide in the description of the video below. Beyond that, we have also set up an ASQ online community around social responsibility. So if you're interested in connecting with other professionals, other quality professionals specifically that are interested in the topics of social responsibility and sustainability, looking to share some effective practices, discuss challenges and responses to those challenges, please be sure to go there. You can find a link for that on our social responsibility website, right in the banner navigation there. And then finally, please know that I forget which one of the panelists had alluded to the fact that there's a great deal that ASQ has done around social responsibility, and that we will continue to do around social responsibility. This integration guide is designed to be a seminal publication to create a foundation off of which additional pieces of knowledge, whether those are publications or trainings or events, off of which they are built. So please let us know what you think of the content of the guide. If it is helpful, what's on point, what's off point. We intend this to be a living document and something that we can learn from and that we can customize and continue to help evolve moving forward with what actually is beneficial to you in the real world. So again, please provide us your feedback on that, how it can be improved, what works, what doesn't work, and the like. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you to our panel, and if you have any questions on this, I can be reached at dcelata@asq.org. Thanks again. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Dave.
Bye. Thank you.